Welcome to another episode of the Speak Easy podcast. This is the podcast where we have quality conversations that are fueled by quality craft cocktails. My name's Adonis. I'm joined in studio, as I always am, by my two homies. That's Matt over there, and that is Luis over there. We're here to have just some fun conversations with you guys. We got a lot to talk about this week, actually. We're going to be digging into our first movie review of this podcast. For those of you who know Matt and I, again, we have had several forays into the movie review podcast space. So you ready to stretch those legs, buddy? Yeah.
I was going to make a joke and be like, I don't know, man. This might be really daunting to be reviewing a movie.
I know.
Gosh, it's not like we have like 200 some plus episodes on that.
It's been a while though, but hopefully it's like riding a bike. We can just jump back on and get back into it. We're going to be discussing Sinners. We've got some other fun conversation topics to dig into, but I wanted to start with a little bit of a fun topic that I saw online the other day, and it was about unpopular opinions. So this is gonna be a little bit like a game. So what I'm gonna state an unpopular opinion, and then I want you guys to either hold up a 1 if you agree with that unpopular opinion, or a 2 if you disagree with that unpopular opinion. So 2 means I disagree, 1 means I agree.
Okay.
All right, so the first one is going to be 20% is the minimum that you tip at a restaurant, regardless of service. So even if you get terrible service, you still tip 20%. Agree or disagree? All right. Okay, so you see Matt's got a 2 up there, Luis got a 2 up there. I'm gonna go with the 2 as well. Yeah, I think I disagree with that unpopular opinion. But let's kick it to someone else so I can stop talking for a minute. Luis, why do you disagree with that?
I disagree with that solely because like in my friend group or here, like
Sure.
we normally do that as a base, at least a couple of us. But there are times where like the service can just be egregious, and the server with the bad attitude, or they mess up your order, or don't come check in on you, and or they're just rude, like they rude or racist. Like, let's be real about it.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to a couple of another friends' podcasts, and it just so happened that like he was, at dinner with his wife, and the waiter comes up and asks, "You guys want separate checks?" And it's like, "It's my wife.
Yeah.
It's my kids."
Yeah.
So I mean, I disagree with that. I don't think, as a base, it should be 20%. Like, I think, again, like, gauge it on the service. There could be bad service, but there could be great service. Like, it doesn't mean you have to just stop at 20%.
Do you ever not tip? Is it ever acceptable not to tip?
I've only not tipped once.
Okay.
And it was one of those special cases where, yes, I did feel like I was being discriminated against.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't bring the plate. They brought the wrong stuff. And we were short on some of the items on the plates, too. It was like, at this point, like, and the place wasn't, up clean. Like, it wasn't up to, like, what you would expect it to be. So it's like, this is the only time ever. And I think it's only been that one time where I've never tipped. I'll go as low as 10%.
Damn.
Well, okay. Matt, anything to add on to what Luis said as far as why you disagree?
I mean, like, if somebody was doing something like that, like being discriminatory or being racist, as a waiter or waitress, that's bold. I would probably say that's 100% a walkout. Like, I'm not going to tip.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like, hey, if I see that person's really trying, that maybe they got a bunch of tables, maybe they have one really big table, and as long as you weren't being a dick to me, like if I held my hand up and you came over and I was like, hey, I need you to give me a water because you haven't come to check in, as long as you're doing that, to me, I'm going to give you the base. But if you're being discriminatory or racist, yeah, I might be like, oh yeah, no, you're not getting anything from me.
So should the base be the 20% for you? Is it 20% for you?
Yeah, I think the base for me is 20. And then if you're like somebody who I'm not even asking, like I'm just looking over and I'm like, oh man, my soda's back. I have a refill. I'll do as high as 25, 30% myself. But yeah, I think my base is 20, unless, and again, something super crazy like them being a jerk.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that bad service deserves a bad tip. I'm definitely not someone who thinks that 20% is necessary. I think if you give me bad service, you get a bad tip. I mean, that's life. That's what tipping is. Tipping culture already sucks because it gives businesses a way not to pay their employees a livable, rate wage because they, can rely on the general public tipping. But that's beside the point. I don't think that 20% is required. Like I said, shitty service equals a shitty tip, in my opinion. If you didn't care enough about delivering the minimum, level of service to me as a patron, then I don't feel the need to give you the minimum level of gratuity. I do try to I try to be as understanding as I can be when it comes to things that are outside of the server's control. Like if it's a really busy day,
Yeah.
and the kitchen's backed up, like it's not their fault that the food is taking as long as it's taking. If the restaurant's not clean, like you called out, Luis, I think obviously to an extent that's up to the servers to keep the restaurant clean, but some things are out of their control. If their, manager, supervisor forgot to order toilet paper that weekend, that's not, what are they supposed to do? Like go home and grab their own toilet paper for the bathroom? So I do, I'm always trying to give them an out as far as like why the restaurant might not be up to par. But I definitely don't think you deserve a 20% tip if you deliver bad service. Again, I'll say it again. Shitty service equals a shitty tip from me. Like it's on a sliding scale. But I'll go like Matt said, I'll go above and beyond. Like if it's great service, I'm definitely gonna hook you up as long as you do your job, as long as you're polite. I've never dealt with anybody being racist at a restaurant. That's wild that happens.
Bold.
Very bold. Because that's not even a bad tip for me. That's a let's go. Like I'm not gonna patronize this business when they are being openly discriminatory or.
Do you
racist
leave
to
not
me.
even paying your bill?
Oh yeah, like I'm asking. I don't want to sound like a Karen, but I'm asking for a manager. I'm gonna be like, yo, this person is being very if they're being overtly racist. Again, it's hard for me to even imagine this because I can't imagine someone being that way.
Like, so you said overtly, right?
Sure.
And then, like, what about the subtle racist actions? Like, they could be just ignoring you, favoring another table, or having these conversations off to where you can't really hear.
That's tough. How do you define that as racist though? Like, how do you define that as someone just being bad at their job versus being
having
racist or discriminatory?
Like, I would say having clear prejudice, right? And again, it's being favorable or only directing in one way where you're constantly being ignored, I think.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be argumentative here, but you're immediately going because of my race.
If you look around and you can wage it, and like, you guys know me. I'm a polite guy. I'm not one to be over the top or causing a disturbance or be the person that everyone wants to ignore. I bathe. So in that case, there's other things that you can pick up on and you look for.
Okay. I've never experienced anything like that, so it's hard to gauge it. But if that ever happens, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll point it out next time, maybe.
This guy, it's like it happens to him every other weekend. Okay, so we spent a lot of time on that one. I want to go a little bit quicker on these next few. These next few aren't as in depth, I guess. So this next one is vanilla is not a flavor of ice cream. 1 or a 2. All right, Luis has
I split my numbers.
2. Okay, and Matt has 1. I'm gonna go 1 here, maybe controversially. We'll go Matt first this time. Matt, why is vanilla not a flavor of ice cream?
Oh no, I meant to do 2 then. Vanilla is a flavor. I do agree with it. Sorry, the 1 and 2's got me at that point.
Okay.
To me, vanilla. I mean, is it bland, basic ice cream? Maybe, but I love vanilla.
I'll say okay. It's definitely. I'm not saying it's bad. So I'll since I'm the only one who disagrees with that, or agrees with that. Sorry. So I think that vanilla isn't a flavor because vanilla is the base. So if I say I want plain ice cream, I expect vanilla ice cream. Vanilla ice cream is in everything. If it doesn't have vanilla in it, it's probably like a sorbet or something. So like even chocolate ice cream has vanilla in it. So it's like it's just a base.
Where are
like
you going
vanilla
and
ice
saying
cream
I
is
want
just the
plain
base.
ice cream?
But if you said plain ice cream, what would you expect to get?
Oh, I guess the sentence doesn't even make sense to me because I'm not gonna go say, "Hey, let me get some plain ice cream." I'm gonna say, "Let me get vanilla."
That's interesting. I mean, that makes sense as to why you think it's a
Yeah.
flavor. Yeah, I would say that it's not because it's just the base. Just like if I walk into a pizza shop and say I want 2 plain slices, then I expect cheese because cheese is the base of the pizza.
Okay.
You know, cheese. You're always gonna have cheese on your pizza. You're always gonna have vanilla in your ice cream.
That's
He's
crazy.
shaking his head over here like you're not always gonna have cheese on your pizza. Show me a pizza without cheese, and I'll show you something that's not pizza.
Here's
not pizza.
Your plain pizza is bread and marinara sauce.
Yeah.
There marinara. There
That's
is
not
no
pizza.
cheese.
There's people that beg to differ. Have you ever made ice cream?
Yes,
How did you make it?
with milk and salt and ice and vanilla.
So you added vanilla to give it flavor.
Yeah, but if I was making chocolate ice cream, you know what else I would add to that chocolate ice cream?
Vanilla.
Vanilla. If I was making strawberry ice cream, you know what I'm going to add to that ice cream? Vanilla. Like
No.
vanilla goes in everything. Every
Yeah.
ice cream recipe I've ever seen has had a base of vanilla.
You know what's really funny is he's saying this, and it is very true. So Dairy Queen, the Blizzards are all the base is vanilla ice cream.
Exactly.
And then when you ask for something extra, it's not like they just go get chocolate ice cream. No, they scoop it, they put it an added flavoring of the chocolate or
Yeah.
whatever flavor, and they mix it into the vanilla.
Exactly.
So it's not wrong, but like to me, I'm still thrown by like it's not a flavor, but it has a flavor.
Yeah, I'm just saying like it's not like a particular the it's basically saying it's plain. If you had to pick a plain ice cream, it would be vanilla.
And everyone would be wrong for that because
Why?
plain ice cream, you got to take out the vanilla extract. Like if you ever made ice cream, and you have your ice, like you said, your salt, and then your milk.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's the ice cream. You're adding the vanilla or the sugar to give it sweetness, to give it flavor, but like I see that as that's the base.
As the ice, milk, and salt.
Yeah.
Okay. But
And
you're
it's
telling
not
me
good.
you can walk into an ice cream parlor and ask for
No.
ice cream without vanilla?
No.
Okay.
But again, if you're asking me if it's a flavor, it is a flavor.
Okay. I mean it's an unpopular opinion for a reason. It's just this is just what I think, you know. It's
entitled to his wrong
opinions, Luis. Opinions.
Everyone's
None
got
of
one.
these aren't facts. All right. We're gonna move on to the next one. Everyone should move to the 24-hour clock. So military time, basically. So Luis is throwing up a 2. He disagrees with that. Matt is throwing up a 2. He disagrees with that. I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna go controversial again. I'm gonna go 1.
What's the benefit?
It's just so you don't have to say AM or PM.
Oh my god. Oh no.
I mean, it gets rid of so much confusion, right? If someone say, "Hey, we're meeting up at 8:00 on Saturday," all right, cool. If it's a 24-hour, I know exactly when that is. If you tell me that in a 12-hour clock, I have to ask 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. 8 in the morning or 8 at night.
Those 3 seconds of conversation really save you, or really
I'm just saying, like,
you
what?
can save the universe with those.
But
times
why
of
not
acts.
make it easier? What's the benefit of making it more difficult?
I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here because my thing is like up until you understand the military clock,
conditioned.
like oh, we're meeting at 1600 hours. What? 4. Oh, well, okay. Nah. Yes, you just add the time after.
The extra time it takes you to add the time is really going to make that big of a difference.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You're over here saying that AM PM. I'm sitting here saying I'm trying to save people from math. Just tell
But
me.
that's because that's how you were. That's how
maybe
you were
should just
educated. on.
Maybe you should just say a full sentence. Hey, we're meeting at 8 p.m. Sweet, thank you, Tommy. Now I know 8 p.m. is the time that we're meeting. 8 o'clock. 8 when?
It's the exact same time, guys. Like there's no saving time by doing it one way or the other. What you're saving is
Me
the
from math.
poor education that everyone's kind of forgotten about, and math, right? Because like
Poor education.
Yeah,
Can
that's
we dig
good.
into that?
What
please?
the hell
so like
happened?
no. In order to do that, you got to get people to be able to do math, right? 2400. 26 or 2200. See, there you go.
20, I don't think there's 26.
There you go. So like blame it on the schooling system in the U.S., right?
Sure.
That's the only reason why we never went around and did that. Because I agree with you. Like, I can do both.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking to just any given person, the odds are they're going to probably want to do 2 p.m.
I mean, I think you can make the argument that the 24-hour clock is more efficient because the military uses it. Military is always going to be more efficient, right? Like, that's sort of their whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
you disagree?
does the whole world... Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah.
But I disagree with, does the whole world have to be based off of what the military does?
No, but I don't think the 24-hour clock was created for the military. The military, they just use it because it's more efficient. The military didn't come up with a 24-hour clock.
Well, then, like, we can use it if we wanted to in between us, and the rest of the world wouldn't have to, but it's more efficient, right?
Yeah, it's more efficient. So I'm just saying, like, why wouldn't you want to be more efficient? Like, why wouldn't the world want to be more efficient?
Did you mean to hold up one and you held up two?
No, I'm still disagreeing with the fact that we should use military clock. But
24-hour clock is the military uses a 24-hour clock. It's not the military's clock.
The military doesn't own it.
Exactly.
But I stand
and that's why
by
I
no.
disagree that we shouldn't use it.
Yeah, I stand by. I mean, I get it, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, it is efficient to be able to say, hey, we're meeting at 1700 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's 5 p.m. But overall, no. I kind of think if you do a complete sentence, hey, we're meeting at 5 p.m. Sweet, thank you. It's, I don't know. To me, it's like, I would rather hear that 5 p.m. and instead of 1700 hours. Aye, sir. Thank you very much.
I think you can also relate it to like analog and digital, right? You have your clock that has the hands now, but that's extra work for some people. It's easy for some people, versus having the clock on the wall. That
I mean, it's definitely
points it
extra
out.
work. Like, nothing. I don't have anything against like analog clocks, but you can't. Anybody who tries to say an analog clock is as easy to tell time on as a digital clock is just lying to you and trying to sound smart, because it is
100%.
not. It is not. I look at the numbers and I see it's 8:03. If I'm looking at my watch, I have to see how
Where's
many
the big
ticks.
hand?
Yeah.
Where's the little hand?
You know, like, even if you're just looking at the minutes, like, it's still going to take you longer to see like how many minutes past the hand it is versus looking at the clock and seeing the actual number.
And I can say this as somebody at a boxing gym where the kids always are like, hey, Matt, what time is it? I'm like, look at the clock. And they like look at it. I'm like, you know what? That's fair. That's on me. It's 8:05. Yeah.
Like, again, everyone should know how to tell time by an analog clock, but I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about efficiency here, of course it's not more efficient to read an analog watch than it is to read a digital watch. Luis is over here rolling his eyes because he's an 80-year-old man. But
These dang kids, they should know how to read clocks.
Listen, but at 80-year-olds, am I going to want to be efficient or am I going to want to enjoy life?
Well, if I'm 80
at that
years
point?
old, death is close by. So yeah, I'd want to be as efficient as possible.
No. Unpopular opinion.
yeah.
Very
All right.
unpopular.
And the last one, this might be a little more controversial. Digital art is not real art. Agree or disagree?
Now, is this in reference to like how artists can use like apps on their iPads to like do the drawing?
Yeah.
Not AI art.
Not AI art. No, digital art meaning you're drawing into a program versus drawing onto a physical canvas.
Okay, and then the question is, digital art is not real art.
The statement is digital art is not real
One's
art.
disagree?
One is agree, two is disagree.
Disagree.
Two. Okay. I'm gonna go two here. I'll not be controversial.
Yeah, thank
on
God. I
this
was gonna say how, bro.
one.
Let's see you draw.
What I will disagree with here, and this might give me a little hot water, is I don't think it's the same level of talent involved with digital art and
Well,
physical, because you're dealing with something that's always going to work the way that it's supposed to. Like, a digital pen is always going to give you the stroke that it's supposed to. A digital paintbrush is always going to give you the level of saturation that you tell it to, versus actually painting on a canvas when you're dealing with actual physical materials that aren't always going to behave the way you expect them to.
I think in that regard, you're not wrong. Like, I want the color red. I don't have to sit here, take my reds,
Mix it.
Okay,
Exactly.
oh man, that's
Yeah.
too bright.
Yeah.
In that regard, yeah, you're right. But both still have their difficulties.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like I've seen people who have deleted the wrong layer or added the color to the wrong layer, and now they have to redo it. Now, granted, that's seconds back, as opposed to somebody saying, "Holy shit, I have to scrap my whole painting now."
And I was like, most software would have undo buttons, right?
That is true. Yeah, they do.
And there's no undo button in real life.
Yeah, there's
you
none.
do that in real life, you're like, I gotta literally start over.
I do still think that digital art is art, but yeah, in that regard of like, the old days of somebody bringing out a sketchbook and like hitting up the charcoal, and then trying to do the shading to the right degree. Yeah, it's definitely not to the same difficulty, but that's just how the beauty of technology has allowed people to be able to achieve is undo. Oh man, that was the wrong color.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question, but I want to hear Luis's thoughts first.
I don't know. Like, okay. And so my thought process is you say that it's not the same amount of talent or the level of talent, but I'm going to take it further and say like, they're not in the same categories. And this can easily be like figured out by like hooking up scans to the brain and see what parts of your brain you're using to paint, to do actual physical art with your hands versus digital art. Because I think you're going to see like a lot of it change. And you'll have a clear difference on like, no, it's not the same type of art, but it's still art. You're still using and pushing your brain to try and work one or the other. So I don't think it's a fair question to ask or fair statement to say that it's not art when it's two different types of art.
So you're saying it is art, but it's not. It's not. Well, I mean, that's the same thing. But I think where you would get pushback on that is I think digital artists would always argue that it is art. And a lot of them, I'm sure, would try to say that it is the same thing. It's the same level of talent. It's the same. They deal with the same difficulties as actual painters if they're a digital painter. I think that the sort of biggest sort of detractor for me is the same way I feel about like EDM or like dubstep music, is that if you forget your laptop, then you can't perform your concert. If you forgot to download, let's say you lose your iPad and you had to go do a painting exhibition and there just wasn't an iPad there.
Yeah.
How do you, if you're a digital painter, how do you do it? How do you
lose
do
a
your
USB?
Yeah.
You can't have your concert, but but a guitarist loses their guitar, hey, give me a new guitar.
Give me a new guitar.
Yeah.
A painter loses their paintbrushes. Yeah, it sucks because I like those paintbrushes, but I can pick up any paintbrush and do what I do because the skill is in me, not with the technology.
Fair, but
Luis is looking like he disagrees, but I mean,
yeah. Well, and again, I go back to like what I said about it's not the same type of art. You can say that they have the same skills, they put in the same effort, but it's not. When it comes down to it, you have physical art and you have media art, and then in physical art, you have sculpting, you have drawing, painting. Matt said charcoaling. Like you have all these different things,
sure,
and they're all the same. You use subcategories and keep going and keep going. And keep
sure.
going. In that sense, it's another part of the world. It's on the other side of the coin, being digital art. So yes, it could be.
But I feel like all
work.
digital artists would consider themselves artists.
Yeah, and they are artists.
Yeah. So I think putting like, I think if you say like, oh, but you're just like, I think saying, oh, but you're just a digital artist sort of takes it, that would be offensive to them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that. It's just the question was like,
digital art is not real art.
It is
was the statement.
Yeah, and so it is real art in a different subgenre or in category, talent. Just like music, just like there's art everywhere. So.
Okay, I mean, sure, yeah, yes.
No, there isn't art everywhere.
No, I mean, yeah, but I get
separating.
So
it is art.
Okay, so I mean that's what you're stating, and then that's okay, fine. All right, that is unpopular opinions. That was interesting. I feel like we might get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Hey.
What was your extra question?
I forgot. I think it was somewhere along the lines of if it is digital art as impressive as like physical art?
Oh man. Is digital art as impressive? I've seen some really cool pieces of digital art, but I still get blown away by A Day in the Park. I think that's the one the one that was like hundreds of millions of dots.
Yeah.
And that to me is like I'm not saying that digital art does not take skill, but there is a level of like when you look at real. Oh, I even hate to say real. That's not what I meant. I'm so sorry. There's a level of like when you look at like a Jackson Pollock.
Sure.
You're just like, I mean, even then, like there's people who can look at Jackson Pollock and be like, all he did was grab a brush.
There's just some spots
and just splat it and be like art.
Yeah.
My bad. But is it as impressive? I honestly, I can say, to me, no, it's not. Because I've just, again, The Day in the Park is my go-to.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that one is, look up the Ferris Bueller painting because it's in there, and it really is a very beautiful painting, done with dots, which is wild. So, no, I would say it's not as impressive.
Fair enough. Luis, any thoughts?
None that are not going to get me in trouble. So
get in trouble. That's the whole point. That's what we're doing.
The thing about it is,
it's different.
It is. No. But here's where I go back to. Like, I've seen some incredible, just mind-blowing digital art.
Yeah, soften the blow, and now sweep the legs.
The time that you take on physical art, and the time that you can dedicate, and not just the time, but like the resources that you can take on digital art, it would take a lifetime to paint something as magical as Michelangelo, right?
Yeah, the Sistine Chapel,
Yeah.
And because of the resources that you have with, the technology we have today, like, you could create
Something,
a whole planet with that art style and continuing onto it and adding onto it. And so I think I bet you that somewhere out there, someone's dedicating all their skills, all their talent to trying to create that. I think that's more beautiful than like the thought of like, oh, digital art just being digital art and having that, because the skill being put into it and the time and the dedication.
Yeah.
And you could do that the same with like all the masterpieces that we've had. I think in that sense too, I think art in the world, physical art, is starting to die out. And I wish we had more people that would go back to doing some of that. But it costs money.
Yeah. Digital art is, I think, ultimately cheaper because, you don't need a constant restock or restore of materials. You buy the software once. It's not like you're going to run out of,
Well, your laptop,
paint.
your iPad might die.
Yeah, your iPad might die.
You might have to buy new iPads.
Yeah. Personally, digital, any sort of digital art, not just like actual art, like art, but like music. We talked about, like, obviously with like things like movies, like CGI. I think there's just something more impressive when it's done physically. When you have physical, like even in movies, like I said, even in movies when there's, where it's not done with CGI, but it's actually, physical, tangible props that you're using. It's always more impressive when you can achieve that level of suspension of disbelief with physical props versus, just doing it on a computer. It's always more impressive.
Yeah, like when you go back to like watch movies from like the 70s and 80s, or even like the early 90s, and it's like you can see that it's like a giant army is all the actors and all these extras. There's something that hits better because you see all those people, as opposed when they do the CGI and you're like, oh yeah, that's ugly. Yeah. So yeah, I agree.
All right, but speaking of movies, we're gonna jump into our next discussion topic, which is we all got the chance to see Sinners recently. So Luis and I have actually seen it twice by now. You've only seen it twice, right? You didn't
Just
go see
twice,
it again.
but
Okay.
I want to. They should make a 3D so that I can go watch it in.
Jeez. 3D Sinners. I'll pass on that. And then Matt saw it with us. We actually all went to see it in the IMAX a couple of nights ago. So yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna dig into it. We'll try to be spoiler free here at the top. Just give like our spoiler free thoughts. Then I'll give you guys a spoiler warning if you haven't seen the movie yet. And then we'll talk about some spoilers. So yeah, just this movie first of all has been getting massive praise online. Critics have loved it. People have loved it. It is definitely one of those movies where it seems to be hitting across all demographics. There doesn't seem to be like any core base of people who are shitting on it, which is always good. You know, movies are supposed to bring people together, so it's always nice when they do. But yeah, just wanted to get you guys' first reactions, first takes on Sinners. Matt, as someone who, you know, just saw it for the first time, what was your initial reaction coming out of the theater?
I had a great time with it, man. My initial reaction was just I had such a fun time. The music, the costume design, the story, so well done. I had an absolute blast watching this, and like seeing Haley Steinfeld, who has been like, you know, I've seen her like Edge of 17.
Sure.
She's always been like the child actor. To see her like in her adult role, say like with some of the lines that she has, I was like, Jesus Christ. But everybody did such a great job. Michael B. Jordan totally sold home the two different characters. My initial thought was just, damn, great job, Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
Again, he just does great work. So
Yeah, he killed it for sure. Luis, your first thoughts.
First thoughts.
Initial thoughts.
Yeah. No, it was an incredible movie, and I will say that like this is the first movie in years and years, and I try to think back on which one made me feel like this, but first movie to make me feel alive again in the movie theaters.
Wow.
Right? Like,
alive again.
Like a lot of these movies I've been going to is like, okay, like they make you think we're talking about this or this topic, or I've watched it because it's a continuation and I'm following along, or even in some of the kids movies, like I was dead bored in Minecraft. So
Yeah.
from going from that to this, yeah, like again, it was one of those movies that like just captivated me, and I had emotions that I cared about the characters. I wanted to see more. I wanted to know more. And yeah, the last one to do that was like Avengers Endgame.
Dang.
Wow.
I mean, Endgame was a good one.
Yeah, Endgame was really good. Big. It's an interesting comparison because that one's on like such a huge scale. Sinners is obviously on a much smaller scale, but it's cool that the impact was the same. Yeah, no, I agree. I thought this movie was amazing, incredible. I thought Ryan Coogler, you know, did the damn thing. I loved how black it was. I love when movies are you know, black, just because it happens so rarely that, you know, directors and storytellers are willing to tell stories that celebrate African American culture like this one does. So that was really cool to see. Yeah, like Matt threw out, the music is one of the pillars of this movie. I feel like it's just it's a character in and of itself. It's awesome. There's so many layers to it. There's so many dimensions to it. It's not even like, if you just think it's one thing, it's not just that one thing. It's multiple things. It's multifaceted. It's just an incredible movie. And a lot of people have been throwing around the word masterpiece. And I think that word gets thrown out a little bit too often, but I think if you look at this in the sense of like what the original definition of the word is like, you have someone who's a craftsman, they create a piece, and that piece is what gives them the level of master in whatever field they're in. I think that could fit what Sinners is for Ryan Coogler, because I feel like every other movie that he's done has sort of been, it's an adaptation of something that's previously existed. This is the first time where he actually got to like just jump into his own bag and create this original story that was just incredibly well put together. And if you're looking at it, he had a massive budget. Like Fruitvale Station, which was his first film, which is arguably his best film, was really good, but it only had like a $90,000 budget, I think it was, when I looked it up. So very small budget. This one having $100 million budget is like, the complete opposite of that coin. So to see him take that and produce something this impressive is just, it's inspiring, as someone who considers themselves a cinephile and a film buff. So I think in that regard, it could be considered a masterpiece, because this is what I think will put Ryan Coogler on a lot of people's radars, if he wasn't already. Obviously, with movies like Black Panther and Creed, people are already sort of looking out for him. But I think this original piece of work is what will sell him for a lot of people.
So I kind of want to add on to like the definition of like what you said masterpiece was.
Sure.
And I think in order to truly be a masterpiece, it has to stand the length of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this movie is going to make it. This already set a record as of today for the lowest drop of a second movie in history.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that's in history.
To people who aren't so well versed in the movie industry, what does that mean?
What does that mean? That means from opening weekend to its second weekend, it did not drop. So like you make X amount of money, right? And the percentage that you should drop, you're obviously not going to get everyone coming to it, right? But this percentage was the lowest that a movie's ever dropped.
Dang,
Like
that is really
yeah,
cool.
Like depreciation, right?
Yeah. Because everyone sees a movie, and then they don't, like no one goes and not everybody goes and tells their friends to go watch it.
Yeah.
So those movies naturally lose a little bit of the money that they make. But then to hear that this movie did not, or that it lost a little bit more, that's really dope.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I wanted you to explain that, because I wasn't really well versed in what that terminology meant, but that is really dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's and well deserved. I think this movie is definitely benefiting from that word of mouth. I think people are watching it and then telling their friends to go see it, and people are seeing the reviews online. And I think people are starved for original pieces of media. Like they're starved for it. They really want just something that's not a rehash of a rehash for a rehash. We went to see this at the theater. And 90% of the people that were at the theater that we were at were dressed up in Star Wars, costumes for the 20th anniversary of the Revenge of the Sith. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating things like that, but I think it's just people are just really want original stories. So
I think we're flooded in a industry or market of every movie is a Marvel movie or a superhero movie. Yeah. There's no originality or it's so rare to run into. That's why I feel like the first John Wick did as good as it did, because it was this movie. Like, we've all had our action thrillers, but like something about that character stood out. And now you have this movie where, yes, it's a vampire movie, but everything that they took from that they built upon, like it's so much more. It transcends being a vampire movie.
And that's the thing too. It's people have been struggling to find a genre to put this movie in, and I think that's great. Like, don't put it in a box. Let it be what it is. Like, it's not just a horror movie. It's not just a vampire movie. It's not just an action movie. It's not just a movie about music. It's its own thing. So, like, stop trying to put movies and people in boxes. Like, let it just exist. Let it be what it is. We don't need to slap a label on everything. But we're going to dig into it more. So if you guys have not seen Sinners and you want to avoid spoilers, let's go for about, let's say 10 minutes of spoiler talk. So we'll jump into it. So skip ahead 10 minutes if you want to avoid those spoilers, and we'll start that right now. So let's just dig into some of the favorite scenes, favorite moments, favorite songs. Anybody got anything?
I think we need to talk about just how magical the middle scene where we started to build to the climax with the music and it started integrating, right? Because the climax was probably having Sammy sing, right? Or that would have been the start. But up until that scene where everyone's dancing and we have the music from the ancestors and we have the music from the future, like that has got to be something I've never seen, and if someone tries to replicate that again, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be something
Yeah, that scene was epic, I think is the right word for it. I have been seeing surprising a lot of people didn't really rock with that scene. A lot of people that's
What?
a lot of that's some of the criticism that I've been seeing online has been about that scene in particular. And not what not what the scene meant or what it was trying to portray, but the execution of it. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was
Oh,
incredibly well done. But yeah, I've heard some negative commentary about
But
that sequence in general.
yeah, but how do you? What's the proper way of doing it? Because you have
Yeah.
so many, and going back to like what the whole movie was, is like not everything's good, not everything's bad, not everything's gonna be perfect, and like there's gonna be some mishaps too. And I get that part of it. Like there's areas in time that we don't talk about. There's areas in time that like, okay, I get some of the music didn't quite fit in, but it flowed and it made sense, right? But that's how we got from like the drumming to eventually like the beatboxing. That's how it came to. But then like the type of dance, right? Like you're not gonna have a good execution because there's so different types of dances that all connect with the music that he's playing. And I think I get that. Like one of the scenes that put me out of place was the twerking scene, right? But how are you gonna portray our times dancing? Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, that scene, I mean, him even singing the song, because of the whole explanation in the beginning, how there are these people that come around that their music, when they sing, they can transcend and connect the generations together. I think that's what Ryan's goal was to do, is to show the power of how strong Sammy's voice was that brought Remick, the vampire.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that like, oh yeah, the twerking scene was unneeded. No, again, he needs to show how powerful Sammy's voice is, and I don't think it was poorly executed. I had a great time with it. I think my favorite thing was, oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry, no. Yeah, just before we get away from that scene, I think what my favorite part of that sequence, that entire sequence, was just the power of it. Like, just you may have an issue with how it was executed, and I'm not trying to make any excuses for people who had a problem with it, but like, it just, to me, it was more what the scene was about and what it represented than maybe how it was executed. But I personally didn't have any problems with how it was executed. Like you guys mentioned, like the integrating the new dance with the old dance. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm like, that's just how it is. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's, how else are you supposed to display that? Like, you can't cut things out that you might find distasteful. Just mentioning the twerking thing, but it's like, that's part of the dance culture of today. So
Yeah.
that it is what it is. So I don't have a problem with it. I can understand why people maybe couldn't connect with it. Maybe why it took them out of it a little bit. That's more what I understand. Like, if you were watching this movie as just this movie about these actual, literal, practical things happening, and then all of a sudden you're dropped into this sequence where it's like you got random people dancing, you got a random guy on an electric guitar. It's just sort of like melding those two worlds together. Maybe that took you out of it. Maybe you were already so invested in this, period piece that takes place in the 1930s in the Mississippi Delta that you didn't want to have that scene because it pulled you out of it. That part I can maybe understand. I don't agree with it, but I can understand that if it maybe ruined your suspension of disbelief a little bit while you're watching the movie. But other than that, like, I just think the scene was so powerful and so impactful that it was necessary for one, and it was just really cool.
Yeah, no,
for lack of a better word.
And to agree with you and disagree with them is like, you needed the scene in order to remind you that this is not, yes, you're involved with the storyline. Up until that point, there's only one point of reference where they're vampires, right? And it was so short, and like the rest of it was character piece.
Yeah.
So to make sure that you're tied into what he wanted to do,
because we hadn't really been introduced to the vampires before just a little bit, that one scene.
One scene.
Yeah.
And so in order for you to remind you, to wrap it up, to like, all right, let's finish this off, get this going, he needed to have something that was, mystical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Sorry, Matt, I cut you off before though. Earlier, you were going to talk about one of your favorite scenes. Sound like?
Well, no, I was gonna say like again, just on that dance scene.
Yeah.
Like you even had the Chinese dancers.
Yeah.
Showing how powerful this voice was to connect you to the ancestors. One of my favorite scenes was, well, I loved how the hoodoo voodoo still stayed powerful throughout the whole movie. Like when the vampires are attacking, you see her consulting the bones essentially
Sure.
to see like, okay, what are the outcomes going to be. And I also really loved that Michael B. Jordan's character Smoke didn't take the fatal shot until after he took off the hoodoo bag. Like she did fully protect him up until he was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like this movie just was a amazing roller coaster of a ride. And I think that had to be one of my favorite scenes. Had to be the like oh my gosh, the seeing how everybody got taken by Remick and they're all like, frick, okay, we need to think of a plan of how we survive the night, because it's like you think everybody got away.
Oh yeah.
Everyone drove off
dancing in the
yeah,
distance.
they're all dancing.
Yeah.
And then someone even brought to my attention, and I thought this was very cool. They're like, Remick is trying to say, oh, you'll be free and all that stuff. They were like, no, if you listen to the two people that he kills first, they're speaking in Irish brogues. But if you go back to when they first were introduced, they didn't speak with Irish brogues. They spoke with like Louisiana, Mississippi draw. So it's like if his freedom is him, he's a hive mind. So
It didn't change Stack though.
no, it didn't change Stack, but I wonder, again, it's a theory, but I thought that was really cool to see. But maybe it was because he was again trying to coerce them to let them in.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, no, this movie was so dope.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left. Other favorite scenes.
Can we just talk about the characters and the like duality? Like I really loved the symbolism behind Stack and Smoke and being, and we talked about this, like Smoke being the older brother with like the moral compass and the protector, and then the red kind of like good and bad, Michael and Lucifer, sort of like that.
Oh, Michael Lucifer, for Smoke and Stack?
For Smoke and Stack, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
I had heard that there was a Sammy's character is based off of one of the big blues singers back in the 30s, 40s, who like everyone believed he sold his soul to the devil.
Oh,
They went to the crossroads and made a deal with the devil.
interesting. No, I hadn't heard that. I haven't done much like additional research. I watched a bunch of interviews with Ryan Coogler and the cast and everything, but I hadn't heard that one. Is that a fan theory or is that something that's actually?
I think it's more so a fan theory, but it
Okay.
is a real story. Give me 1 second here. Blue. Robert Johnson.
Oh.
Robert Johnson is everyone believes that's like that's his true story. So why he became such a big blues icon, and so a lot of people are thinking that Sammy is supposed to be pay homage to that.
Interesting.
So I think that'd be kind of cool, though. I mean, he did in fact have to deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Didn't have to make a deal, but had to deal with one.
Yeah. Fair. All right, that's our 10 minutes, guys. Obviously, we could talk about this for a lot more, but again, we don't want to spoil it for you guys. So if you want to hear my full thoughts, you can do that by going to my Letterboxd account. I'll drop it with the credits of the show. So I wrote a very thorough review of the film over there, so you can check that out. And maybe we'll revisit this in a couple weeks if it's still popping off at the theater. Yeah. All right. I did want to talk about the drink, though. Yeah. So we are drinking Mai Tais today. Well, we were drinking Mai Tais. I think I'm the only one who has Oh, Luis has a little bit left over there.
Just a little.
But Mai Tai. So a little bit of a my backstory with Mai Tais. The first time I had a Mai Tai was on my honeymoon on Maui in Hawaii. We went to Maui in the winter, December of 2023 is when I got married.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
2021. Jesus.
21.
I've been married for almost 4 years. Crazy.
No way.
Anyway, yeah, it was definitely 2021. Yeah. Sorry. So we went to Maui.
Let's go ask your wife really quick. Hey, Bree, when did you guys get married? Don doesn't remember.
Time flies.
He's gonna hear it.
Time flies. You know, it's just been magical.
Good save.
2021 we went to Maui, and I had always heard about Mai Tais, and we were at a resort, and it was, you know, we were out sitting on the beach, and they had like the waiters, you know, coming up to you while you're out on the beach, and it was like, yeah, I gotta have a tropical drink while I'm chilling on the beach. So ordered a Mai Tai and was blown away. I think I probably had about a dozen on that trip. That was definitely my drink of choice on that trip on my honeymoon. And I really enjoyed it. And then when I got back, when I got back to the mainland, I tried them at a couple of different places, and they just weren't hitting right. There's a couple of places where we're throwing in things like grenadine and cherries, and it was and then I read up on it a little bit, and it was like, yeah, it's sort of been sort of perverted over the years. And I don't know if what I had in Maui was like the original Mai Tai, because doing my research, I found that the original Mai Tai was actually more similar to a margarita than like a Bahama Mama or something like that. And I'm definitely not a margarita guy, so I don't think what I got in Maui was like a true Mai Tai. So I did some experimenting, you know, when I first got back. Ultimately ended up just buying a bottled Mai Tai mix that was pretty similar to the flavor profile that I had when I was in Hawaii. So I stuck with that. So when I was doing my research for the drink that we're drinking today, I kind of made sort of a hybrid version of the classic Mai Tai and the sort of perverted version that we get here in the mainland United States. So this Mai Tai, this is going to be branded as Adonis's Mai Tai. It's got your classic Mai Tai ingredients like the orgeat, that's like an almond syrup. It's got the orange liqueur. I think it calls for like a orange curacao, but the recipe that I found used Grand Marnier instead of orange curacao, which it's still an orange liqueur, but it's a little bit different. What else does it have? Lime juice and rum. Obviously, rum is the main alcoholic ingredient in here. It calls for a Jamaican rum, but anytime a recipe calls for rum, I'm going to go with Captain Morgan. That's my guy.
Preference.
That's what I prefer, that flavor profile. That's because I'm uncultured when it comes to cocktails. So that's what's in here. I did add, so the sort of perverted version influence was the pineapple juice, which isn't supposed to be in here. And I think that's it, really. I think the pineapple juice was only like the really true, like, offensive part of this drink. I think any cocktail connoisseurs would be like, oh my God, you put pineapple juice in a Mai Tai? I think it just gives it that island flavor, you know, makes me feel like I'm on the beach again. So
my empty glass will tell you that, yes, it gave it that island feel, and I drink it so fast.
Yeah, it's a good drink. Good. Yeah. So I enjoy it. This was my first time making it using this recipe, but definitely something that I'll make again. Again, just refreshing, just really good. Makes you feel like you're on a beach somewhere. Luis, you're obviously more of the non fruity beverage drinker on our panel. What'd you think of it?
I gotta give you props, and I've had Mai Tais before. I like them. They're not sweet. That's the main focus of it, right? They're supposed to be just smooth. The fact that you added pineapple, but it still tasted like it was still a solid, is probably due to your choices of the Grand Marnier and the Captain Morgan. Because if you had gone with like Jamaican rum or sugar rum, then this probably would have been sweeter. But this was like, look at that. I'm almost done, and I want another one. So good job, man. This is
Thanks.
this might. I won't say it's my favorite drink so far, but
Hey, you can say that. Nobody's gonna stop you.
We're only 4 episodes in.
You're only 4 episodes in.
no.
But cool. Yeah, that's the drink of the week. If you guys want to mix this up, we'll make sure to post the recipe so you guys can sip along with us for the rest of the episode. But yeah, we're gonna jump into another conversation. Luis had something for us.
Yeah, I do. I've started to realize I probably shouldn't be as morbid as I am, but I've talked a lot about dead people, but we got a lot of topics, right? And
Oh, that's true because you talked about
Selena,
Yeah.
George Foreman.
Oh yeah, I forgot George Foreman.
One of my other topics was gonna be Batman, and let's not go there.
Oh yes. Okay.
So, no, but unfortunately, this is a world news piece, right? And so the Pope Francis, passed away a couple weeks ago, actually Easter week. So
Yeah, just about a week ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk about a couple things of that, just like what religion meant to you guys. Just the surface. I know we've talked about. We're not diving in. Matt, don't give me that look because we're not diving in.
I'm diving in. All right, you guys are about to get to know my religious background.
Yeah. So, but what you grew up with and what it means for you in the world that the Pope has passed away, and then just some of the controversy that's been happening around that. And what's next? So just for background, right? This is supposed to hit hard for me because I was raised Catholic. Before I came to the United States and before I went to school, I was in Catholic pre-K. And in Catholic pre-K, you had your nuns that were the teachers, right? Go to class. If you did anything bad or if there was anything wrong with you, you'd get the ruler with the sharp end, and it would sting and it would cut. And I had marks as a kid. It's one of those things that they're obviously right. So you got to do what they tell you. And no. So I've always been back and forth with religion since then. But I was raised Catholic, and up until a certain point, we would go to church every week, and then we got to talking, understanding that there's more to this, and everyone has a little bit of other, I would say other agendas, right? There's other reasons to why they do that, and when we did start getting into more of religion, we wanted to be there to play a little bit, enjoy it, but then the church turned around and said, well, you have to do your tithing, and it has to be a minimum of $200 every week. And then we got to the point, well, no, we're not going to do that. So in that sense, I've kind of found my own path. I've had great parents that have provided a good moral compass, but as far as religion, as far as what I believe currently, I believe that everything happens for a reason, or most things happen for a reason. There might be some sort of spiritual guidance that influences those things. And there's got to be a reason why I'm still here, right? But to that and to what you make of it is going to be your own. I think that there's free will in that, and there's no predestination to that, which is very contrary to what I believe in the sense of romance. But we're not doing that. We're doing what happened. So yeah, raised Catholic, big thing. I'm very curious what's going to come next because, the whole step is they get together, they pick a new pope, and I don't think we should continue that tradition.
You don't think we should continue? You don't think we should continue that tradition? That's a hell of a way to end your little.
Yeah, well, I think there's other ways to look at it, and there was a comedian that made a joke of they're never going to elect a woman pope, right? This is Pope Francis, to give you a little backstory. It was the first Latin American pope in over 600 years. I think it's 600 or since the 1600s. To be elected a pope. So ever since then, a majority of popes have come from Europe.
Yeah, progress, it just has really kicked in over the last 100 years or so. And how many popes have we had in the last 100 years,
But I'm saying, there needs to be more progress in the church.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
gotta, we gotta knock down doors
Yeah,
and
of
open
course.
stuff, and
Yeah.
in order to do that, like, you can't just rush into this decision of who the next pope is. No, there's got to be more to this. So I don't think it's gonna be a quick thing. But I'm gonna kick it. I'm gonna kick it to. Should we go deep into this or really deep into this? Matt,
Yeah.
you were raised Catholic.
I was raised Catholic. Yeah.
You are Catholic.
I mean, I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
I'm baptized Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I really did like that everything that Pope Francis did do for Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciated that he was the first one to kind of like really go out there and say that we shouldn't be looking down at the LGBTQA community.
Mm-hmm.
He was like saying, hey, we're not the ones to judge. That's God's thing. And then also God would love all of his children. He doesn't care who you love. And then also he was the first one to say that dogs and animals also go to heaven, because apparently for the longest time Catholics were like, heaven's for humans, and he was like, nope, God's creation, it's gonna go to heaven too. So I really did appreciate a lot of like what Pope Francis had done in the community for that reason. But to me, like, I was like, that sucks that he died, but he's like 80 some plus years old. So I was like, it's going to happen. So I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like my background with religion is, again, I was raised Catholic. I was baptized Catholic, but I've always been more how my grandma raised me with Catholicism, which is like, you follow the 10 Commandments. You're not better than anybody because of your religion. You're just a good person. And that's all that, because you choose to be a good person, not because religion makes you good. So I've always followed that. So yeah, I mean, for me, I go to church because my mom wants me to go, and she's like, it's for your soul. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure God looks at my soul and is like, Matt's not doing anything terrible out there. He's a good guy. So yeah, for me, I've always just been kind of like, I think it really came after I had a major death in the family, where I was just kind of like, I don't want to say it shook my core of religion, but it was really just like, okay. Like, who knows what's after? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
So do I hope that there's stuff after? I do, because I would like to see the people I love, but, it is what it is. So I just try to do every day right by being the person that I am, by being helpful and comforting. And that's as far as I go with religion. It's very like, if you don't do me wrong, I won't do you wrong. And that I know that's really vague, but it's just like, just be a good person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you how to live your life. If you say X, Y, and Z, this is my truth, that is your truth. And you are entitled to that truth because of free will. And at the end of the day, I'm going to say my side of however I feel, of what I think. And if you try to sit there and say, well, I don't think you're right, that's fine. You can think that. You'll never change me.
Yeah.
I'll never change you. And whatever being you believe in, God, Mother Earth, or nothing.
Yep.
A-okay, man. Just don't sit here and say, well, you're an idiot for believing that there is anything. I don't want to, hey, you're totally fine to have that thought. I will not continue this conversation with you. Have a great one. So yeah, for me, I'm baptized Catholic, but I'm not the best one to look to for like, Matthew, tell me, what does the Catholic Bible say? I don't know, man. Adonis had reached out to me and asked, do Catholics do anything when the Pope dies? I had to Google it.
Yeah.
I was like, do we?
I meant, and that for people listening, I meant more in the sense of like what everyday Catholics do.
Yeah.
Like do you have to go to church? Do you have to go to mass that day, or is there anything like that? Are you supposed to pray? Like, is there anything? Because I was born or raised Christian, but obviously Christian, like all Catholics are Christian, but not all Christians are Catholic. So it's just because we never really paid any attention to the Pope as a Christian family. So it was like one of those things where I was like, I feel like this should be a big deal. Like, I feel like, this is something that I feel like there should be like something like you observe, do something, but I guess not. I guess you just
I mean, there
say
were
a prayer, you know.
there were some places, in some churches they have Monday Mass.
I think the Vatican City actually shuts down.
Yeah.
Like they actually the day is done essentially. I'm not 100% certain, but like I'm pretty sure if you get into like a heavy Catholic community, they probably were like, this is now a day of observance. But here in Arizona, no, not in Arizona.
Fair enough. As for me, just a quick run through about my journey with religion, because it's been a journey. I was born. I keep saying I was born. You're not born a religion. My family was Baptist, Christian, but it was again sort of like Matt was saying, like we were Christian, but we didn't go to church. It was like we were taught to believe in God. Like there were certain Bible passages, that we might have had posted around the house or something, but religion was never really a huge part of our life. But we all believed in God. Like it was, you wouldn't say things to, take God's name in vain. You wouldn't, like we were, just the general stuff, that most families do. I didn't really get deep into religion until, after my mom had passed away in 2008, and I was in college at the time, and I was just looking for sort of answers, because when it first happened, I was upset more than anything. I was like just angry. So like one of my coworkers had like hooked me up with one of her friends who ran a college praise, I guess you want to call it, praise group. It was called Crew. Christians Crusade for Christ it's huge in most colleges. Like they have, it's basically one of the leaders one time was like, we're college kids who don't drink and have premarital sex. Like that's what we are. Like that was like, but he was like, we're more than that. But that was sort of how he established like what the crew kids did. But anyway, so I got involved with that. I went to a few of their meetings, a few of their prayer sessions, and it was nice because it felt like being a part of a community. I could throw myself into it. I started to learn about the Bible more. I went to Bible study like on a weekly basis, and I really, really got into it. At a certain point with that, though, like when we were having Bible study sometimes and questions would come up about faith and doubt and things like that, and it always sort of boiled back down to, faith. You always just have to have faith. And I heard a few testimonials that I was just like, man, I just disagree with this. And ultimately it boiled down to me realizing that I just wasn't as firm a believer as the people I was surrounded by. And that made me feel like a phony. That made me feel like someone who was just sort of doing this for the community aspect of it, not because I actually believed in what they were saying. So that was hard for me to swallow. Like when I got to that point and I realized like, hey, Adonis, you don't really believe this. You're just here because these people are really nice. They're going to listen to you. They say nice things to make you feel better in the moment, but ultimately, like, you don't actually believe this. And I didn't want to perpetuate, I didn't want to lie to them, and I didn't want to lie to myself. Like, I was just sort of like, I thank you guys for what you've done for me, but this is like, I don't believe any of the stuff that I'm saying or doing. So I left that group, and the more as I've grown older, I've definitely moved further away from religion so far, in fact, that I'm very much an atheist at this point. Like, I don't believe in any sort of like higher power in terms of like any sort of religious sense. Like I dabbled in naturalism for a little bit. I dabbled in humanism for a little bit. But
I've heard of those two.
Yeah. It's basically like you just, instead of like the focus is, and humanism is on other people. Like you find like the good in other people, and that's what you worship, quote unquote. But you're not like going to church or anything. It's just like you just believe in people. And naturalism is the same thing, but about the physical environment. Like you just, that's that. If there is a God, it's the earth. It's like, which that's probably the closest I've ever been to feeling like I actually believe this. Just because it's not really much of a belief, because it is, the earth is the earth. I can touch it. I can feel it when I go to like somewhere like Muir Woods or the Redwoods, and like that's where I'm awed. Like that's where I'm left speechless, is when I'm looking at something that doesn't make sense to me in terms of how beautiful it is, or the Grand Canyon, or Niagara Falls, or somewhere where you're just like, this is awe-inspiring to me. Not thinking about some dude, chilling up in the clouds. So that's where I am right now currently in my life. It's just that and I'm not aggressively atheist, and I know that's a weird statement to make, but I'm not someone who tries to push it on other people. If you believe what you believe, that's awesome. I hope that like my daughter, for instance, can believe in some sort of afterlife or higher power, because it sucks not believing in that because it's like, hey, once you die, that's it. Like you're done. Like, there's no, seeing your family or anything like that. So, I really do hope that she can have something, she can believe in something like that. But it's just for me, where I am right now in life, it's just not a real thing. I can't force myself to believe it. I can't force myself to believe in anything so ridiculous. No offense to anybody who does.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you make a couple valid points. I wanted to touch on two of them real quick, but I mean, I will say that you've just unlocked a new fear for me, so thank you, in the sense of that, like, never had to think about what happens after.
How have you not?
And I don't want to.
It's a dangerous road.
It's a dangerous road, Matt.
I've had existential crisis in the middle of a Wednesday afternoon. Sometimes I'll just sit there and just suddenly think, yeah, like what happens, and then if you truly think that there's just nothing, it's terrifying. It's truly terrifying, because oblivion is just scary. You're just like, man, you're here now, and then you're just nothing.
And I'm saying that because I've thought of like my oblivion, but I haven't thought of others' oblivion. So
yeah.
So
fair enough.
But to go back on like, I definitely understand why you had to like leave the group, and like there's something I would say just like passionate, or just I don't know. You could say idiotic. You could say a whole bunch of things, but like blind faith, right?
Yeah.
Because if I were to have blind faith right now, and this is a horrible example, don't attack me for this, but like I have blind faith that I'm going to be a billionaire one day. I don't know. Somehow I'm going to be a billionaire. No, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
And it goes to that tale, that short story of like, I pray to God to save me during the flood.
Yeah.
And you get a ship, or you get a little boat, you come rescuers, helicopter, and when you finally get to God and ask why you didn't save me, I sent you a whole bunch of stuff. You got to put in the work to get there. Yeah. So, there's so much that goes into religion, so much that goes into the self, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think that there should be so much going into choosing what happens next for the next pope, or the Catholic, or the church's, the Vatican's next choice. There has to be so much.
What's crazy is that the movie Conclave, which was nominated for an Oscar last year, has increased by 258% their streams since the Pope died.
Damn.
And my parents were one of those.
It's a great movie, and if you want, it's so crazy that this happened, and that's literally, the movie Conclave is about the Pope dying, and then what happens after. It's literally about a conclave of priests deciding who the next pope is. It's crazy that it's like. That's literally the whole movie.
Yeah,
it's like 7 days.
The process
right?
of voting. I think it's just until you choose.
Until you choose.
Until there's a majority.
I know they go into that chamber and then smoke billows out, and then it turns red, right?
They do. I don't remember exactly the colors, but they do it every day to let you know that they're done, like with their session or whatever. But like it's all, so there's always going to be smoke, but until there's a specific color of smoke, that just means that, hey, we didn't come to a decision.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
To that though, like I'm gonna touch on this real quick. They haven't said why he died.
Oh, really? No cause of death yet?
No cause of death. He met with JD Vance the day before.
Oh yeah, there's that whole thing.
So I'm one of those, and this is gonna be the only time I see myself as a conspiracy nut. But like, when you're in a position of power, against someone who is against your power, what do? You take them out.
You think J.D. Vance killed
there's-
the Pope?
Yeah, in one way or another. Could have been bacteria. It could have been
Okay.
pneumonia. It could have been poison. I don't like. And
He's serious, folks. He's got a very serious face over here.
prove to me that he didn't do it.
Prove to me that he didn't. Hey, I mean, until it's said and done, I guess you really don't know.
Yeah.
That's fair.
We haven't had a cause of death yet, apparently.
Well, yeah.
That's just so funny. I have not heard that conspiracy. That people are thinking that JD Vance killed.
Oh, no,
the
you
Pope.
ha-
there's you haven't seen
haven't
that?
heard it.
I'm on. I'm not even on
Apparently
social
not.
media, and it's everywhere.
I'm
Like,
saying you haven't heard it, and there's a reason why you haven't heard it. And I'm not saying he I don't have facts. I don't have proof. This is just a theory. This is just a, speculation. But are there any other better theories right now?
That he's old.
No.
That he was old.
No. Do you think they're not going to take care of the Pope?
At some point at 65, I'm pretty sure your metabolism's like, we got to wrap this up, guys.
I mean, popes die. I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
he's the first pope to die.
Yeah, but he was in term for a shorter term. He had some prejudice, and he called out, certain things about the vice president. And on top of that, like, my grandmother is alive and kicking. She's had so many different things, and she is nearing 100 years. So
Yeah, but Luis, people do die in their 80s. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's the life expectancy of most men is what, 77, 75?
Yeah,
something
roughly.
like that.
I mean, hey, you're
But
entitled to
yeah,
your theory.
yeah,
To
hey.
100%.
I would not be surprised, but it's a wild to think that something like that could have happened. But no, good conversation.
we'll find out what happens next.
Yeah, we'll find out what happens next. You guys might know by the time this podcast goes up, so we'll see. That's going to wrap up our episode for this week, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Before we head out, obviously, remember to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on iHeart, we're on Amazon Music. So make sure you guys are following us. Give us a rate and review wherever you can. You can find us on any of those platforms at Drink Easy, Speak Easy. Yeah, Luis, where can they find us on the socials?
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Not X. Oh, and then what's the one?
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. I gotta use that more. I signed up. I followed us.
Nice.
But I gotta use that more.
Yeah. All at Drink Easy, Speak Easy. That's where you can find us anywhere across the web. So thank you guys for hanging out. And until next time, I'll raise our glasses and do a quick cheer. May the best of our todays be the worst of our tomorrows. Cheers.